Welcome back to the training sessions on SSAS and MDX. And in this video or in this session, we're going to discuss about uh, perspectives. Okay, that's the first one we're going to start with, and we will cover a couple of other concepts too. Okay, what is meant by perspective? General English to Telugu or English to your own language. What is meant by perspective? Perspective means his own view, right? Everyone will have their own perspective when they are discussing. When a couple of guys are discussing about a particular topic, let's say an argument is going on, everyone will have their own perspective, right? That means their own view. They will express their own view, right? In the same way, here perspectives means depends on the client, what they want to see, how they want to see, what is the most frequently see, what's the data that they are most interested in. So, for example, if you see, this is pretty small cube with only one measure group and only 4 to 5 dimensions here. Okay, and there are two clients. Let's say client 1 and client 2. And client 1 is interested to see product-wise sales, and client 2 is interested to see date-wise sales, when the shipment is done and when the due date is collected and when the order was placed. Okay, one guy is interested in date-wise sales. Okay, and the other client is interested in product wise, which product is performing good and which product is not performing good. So if you see here, each client will have their own perspective. Okay, so in that case, how we can provide the same to the user? For example, let's say I have two clients, client 1 and client 2. I'm going to create two perspectives here. That means two views. I'm going to create two views. Okay, let me show you how to do that. First I have to set the requirement. The requirement is first client wants to see product wise sales, and second client want to see date wise sales. So first I have to select this perspective and give some name. I'll give the name as client 1, and this client 1 want to see product wise sales. He is not interested in the remaining information. He is only interested in the product wise sales. And let me create a perspective which will show only that information and which will not show the remaining information. Okay, so once I add a new perspective, it will have checkboxes. If I select any one, then it will be shown to this particular perspective client, and if I uncheck that, it will not be shown. For example, now the requirement is product wise sales, so I want sales amount to be there, and I don't want due date, ship date and order date. And if you expand this, you will find all the attributes that are present, and you can hide attributes also. Let's say you don't want to, he's not worried about product category, subcategory key. So, and also you don't want product key. Let's say you want to see product name and color as the attributes product name and color, and the measure only sales amount. So again, I'm gonna just deploy the cube. I'm not gonna make any changes. I'm not gonna process the cube. Why? Because I have not made any changes to the structure of the cube. So what I'm doing here is I'm just deploying the cube. Okay, I deployed successfully. Now, if you observe, I created one perspective, and let me show you how to test that perspective. If you see here, AdventureWorks DW is the cube name. So by default, the cube what you are creating is a perspective. Okay, by default it's a perspective. If you go to perspectives, you'll find AdventureWorks DW, which is defaulted, which means all the attributes and all the measures that you have added for this cube will be default selected. You cannot alter it. Okay, and the perspective that we created is client 1, and I can choose what I want to show to the client and what I want to hide from the client. So this is the user defined perspective, and this is the cube which we also call as perspective, which is defaulted to all the values checked. Now let me go to the browser. The default perspective will be always the cube name AdventureWorks DW, and hence it is showing all the dimensions and the measures. If I select client 1, so this is the perspective I created, and if you see the products, it will be showing only color and English product name. And if you see the measures, and it will show only sales measured. It's in other words, the items or the attributes and the measures that I have checked here will be shown in the perspective. Now, what is the second perspective? What's the client 2 perspective? So for client 2, his requirement is to see sales amount based on months, right? Months and whatever may be the date. So he don't want to see product wise information, so I'm unchecking it. And due date, from due date, he want to see only hierarchy 1 and hierarchy 2. So let me check only hierarchy 1, let's assume. And from ship date, it's again the same story. Let's say he want to see hierarchy 2. And from order date, let's say you don't want to see any hierarchies, but you want to see a couple of attributes. Okay, whatever the user requirement is, you have to check that, and you have to uncheck the remaining stuff. So I'm deploying the cube again. Why? Because I have added a new perspective. It's deployed. Let me go to the cube browser, process it, reconnect it, and you can see client 2 perspective. If I select this, it is showing only the dates. Why? Because I unchecked the product dimension for the particular client 2. Now, if you see under due date, it is only hierarchy. In order date, it is the attributes that I have selected, and in ship date, it is hierarchy 1. So, in short, what is meant by perspective? Perspective is nothing but slice of the cube. Let's say you have created a very big cube. Okay, this is the total cube with 10 dimensions and 5 measure groups or 2 measure groups. Okay, this perspective means slicing of it, a slice of it. You can call this one as one perspective and this one as one perspective. It depends on the client requirement, what client want to see. So you can create perspectives, n number of perspectives as per the requirement. And by default, the complete cube is also a perspective. The complete cube, whatever you are creating by adding the dimensions and the measures, that is by default a perspective. And you can see the same under perspectives. The first one that will list, or the default one that it will be selected is the cube name. And next you will have the option to select the remaining perspectives that you created or created by any developer. So in short, it is nothing but a slice of the cube, slicing one piece of the cube, or in other words, you can call it as a view. Perspective is nothing but a view. You are calling, let's say, the complete cube as a table. Okay, all these things are, let's say this is a table and each and everything is a column. What you are doing, you are selecting few columns to be shown to the end user. You are selecting few. What we call it in SQL Server concepts, it's nothing but a view. View means it's a virtual one. It's not physically created cubes. Perspective is a virtual one. And what you are going to do is you are going to select what user want to see. Okay. So you'll be getting only a couple of questions from perspectives. The first thing is, did you ever create perspectives? Answer should be yes. And what is a perspective? Perspective is nothing but a slice of the cube, or in short, we call it as a view on the cube. And the third one, what's the advantages of perspectives? It's just like an added advantage to the user. If user is interested in only sales amount based on products, and let's say there are some 100 of dimensions and tens of measure groups, then why he need to load everything when he can make use of when he need only couple of attributes and couple of measures? Why he has to load hundreds of attributes and hundreds of measure groups into the cube browser? It's not required, right? Let's say this is a pretty big cube with hundreds of dimensions and measure groups. In that case, if you have full cube, and it's always, it will go up to here, even more than that. So you have to search, scroll down, scroll up to find out your required peak. But here, if you create a perspective, let's say product wise sales, it will be very short and sweet. You can simply drag and drop whatever you want. You selected the items that you are interested in. The business is interested in a particular set of data, and you are creating a perspective to make only that data available to the business. And the second one is, if you see, if I am entitled to only few dimensions and if you are entitled to only a few other set of dimensions, then you can use perspective to hide the things from the other guy, right? So this is the advantages of perspectives, and it's an easy concept, and you don't need any logic to think and so on. It just get the requirement of the business, that is clients, and check or uncheck. If you don't want, if the user don't want, uncheck it, and if the user want to see, then check it. This is completely about perspectives. Now let's see one important thing. We are working on the cube, and you know this cube output or the cube database will be used in SSAS to generate reports. This is well known one. I mean, either in SSRS or in some third party tools like Dundas or XMLA. So many third party tools are available in market. If you go on Google it, saying that reporting tools or reporting charts available for pulling data from MOLAP, then it will show some hundreds of tools. There are so many third party tools. Now it has become a business. Everyone is generating, most of the companies are working on, and most of the product development companies create a product saying that as reporting tool X, reporting tool Y, something like that. So most of the tools will support SSAS cube if it is designed to connect to OLAP. Okay. Now, even though there are hundreds of tools available in market, the most favorite one to the users is Excel. They love to connect the cube from Excel to test the data, to see the data, whether it is coming as per the requirement, and they will generate hundreds of reports using Excel. And couple of months back, I met one small company CEO, and they are working on an Excel template. That template, if you connect to the cube, automatically it fills some hundreds of sheets and it will generate the reports. So Excel is the hard favorite, and they have a lot of clients. They want Excel reports, and the data should be pulled from cube database. Now let me show you how to connect to the SSAS cube from Excel and how to play with the data, just like how you are playing in the browser option. In the browser, what you can do, you can drag and drop and you can play whatever, you can pull whatever you want, and you can filter, you can see the data, and you can test the data whether it is coming correctly or not. Now let me show you how to connect from Excel, which is very important. Why? Because the testing part, once the cube is ready, you need to test it. Generally people will go for Excel. And business, if you provide the cube to the business, what they will do is they will connect to the Excel and they will see whether it is working as expected or not. Let me select Excel. And to connect from an Excel, the first thing is you have to go to the data, and under connections you can go for from other data, from other sources. You can find the option here, right? This is a drop down, and if you click here, you have many options, many sources here. SQL Server, Analysis Services, XML Data Import, Data Connection Wizard, and from Microsoft Query. And what is the option that we have to go for? We have to go for the option 2, that is from Analysis Services. If I select this, it is asking for the server name. Server name is nothing but where your cube is deployed. Where your cube is deployed. My cube is deployed in localhost, that is in my local computer. If it is deployed in some computer in Australia or America or England, then you have to provide the server name here. They will give you the server name. You have to provide that. And if there is generally for SSAS, there will be Windows authentication. By default, authentication is Windows. There won't be SQL Server authentication. This is an important interview question. Many of my students got this question in their interviews. What is the authentication mode for SSAS? It is defaulted to Windows authentication, no SQL Server authentication, just like in SQL Server. For SQL Server, you can set either way, either Windows or SQL Server, right? But in SSAS, it is only Windows authentication. Click on next once you give after giving the the server name, and you can see it will list you all the databases that are available, right? If I select this database, you can see the cube that is available here. Now let me do one thing. Let me process everything. Let me process the cube. I don't know what is the status of the cube. I've not processed it from last 4 days. So let me process it once so that all the data will be pulled into the queue. Or if any error, then we'll have to fix it. Okay. Now let me go back, click on next. Okay, this is the cube name which I am using. SSAS project is the project what I am using. And you can see this is the AdventureWorks cube and this is the book sales cube. You can see it. I have book sales cube also in this solution. Let me show you that to make you guys believe. So AdventureWorks is there, DW, book sales is there, and the client 1 and client 2 is nothing but perspectives whatever we created just now. From Excel, you can connect to the perspective you created also. This option is also available. Now let me connect to the cube. So to connect to the AdventureWorks DW cube, I have to select that, click on next and click on finish. If you click on finish, it will ask you whether you want to create a pivot table report or pivot chart and pivot table and only create connection. So go for pivot table and click on OK. It will create a pivot table. Here you can see this is the pivot table. On the right hand side you can see the fields that are available. So whenever the fields are not displaying like this on the right hand side, that means your the mouse focus. Okay, the control is on not on pivot table. So click on the pivot table, again it will be visible. Now I want to see sales amount. So let me drag and drop to values. Sales amount is a values one. If you see these, the last 4 text boxes, it is just like your browser. In browser what you have? You have filter path, columns, rows and totals. In the same way this is totals, columns, rows and filter path. Now I want to see hierarchy in rows. Let me add it here. You can see the hierarchies is added. Right? You can see the hierarchy. Now let's say you want to filter based on some color. So drag and drop. Sorry, let's say you want to filter based on English product name. You can drag and drop it here and you can see the filter is added on top. So here you can select either one or multiple options. By default it will be single option selected. If you want to select multiple, select this option, select multiple items. So everything is selected. You can uncheck something if you don't want to. Click on OK. It will show you only those values. Now let's say you want to add colors to the columns. Drag and drop into the columns. So this is how you can play with the data. Right? If you see, this is beautiful report and using this they can calculate and they can do some other stuff if they want, if they are interested. Let's say if they can write some formula here saying that if grand total is greater than so much, show it in red or else show it in green. Something like that, right? So this, if you see, if you observe, this is faster than browser. This Excel report is always faster than, this is what I observed in my experience. This will be always faster than. And you can filter the columns here. You have all these columns, right? Let's say I want to show only black color. I can filter only black so that it will show only black color. In the same way, I can filter the row items also. Let's say I want to show 2001 and 2 alone, then it will be. And if you see, this is drill down, right? One under the another one. The hierarchy is showing drill down option. If you want to set the properties, you can go for pivot table options. On the right, if you right click on that, you'll find pivot table options. Here, you can set it in a different way as per your, for example, display. Go to the display. Let's say classic pivot. If you select classic pivot, it looks like this. Here, next one is column. It's going column by column. Earlier it was one under the another. 2000 was here and 2000, I mean the 2 was here and 3 was here, something like that. Now it is column wise, classic pivot. And for everything, total at the end. So this is classic pivot and I will uncheck the classic pivot and you can see the difference. Let me go to the classic here, remove the classic pivot and Now it is completely removed. I have to uncheck that 1 second. It was like this. You can see it was row labels. If it is not classic pivot, you can see this is not row. It is only one column that is row label in that hierarchy was showing. And if I select the classic pivot option, it will show you a different view altogether. It will show all the columns and semester and quarter, the complete hierarchy it will show. So this is a couple of, and you will find a lot of options in the pivot properties. So right click and go for pivot table options. You'll find totals and filters. If you want to show the totals, show grand totals for rows, that means for all the rows showing the grand total at the bottom. Can you see this one? And grand totals for columns. Let me remove these rows, and you can see the grand total is gone. This is gone. And if you remove the other one, the other grand total also will be hidden like this. And you can play with the data here. For error values, if you want to show some text, you can hard code the text. For empty value, you can show some text. If any value is empty, it will show not applicable. And these are easy to understand. Just try. You have to practice it. I mean, connect to the cube and try to try to play with the different options that is available here. And display, you'll find so many other options like show the values now and show items with no row data on those. If there is no data also, it will show something like that. Okay. This is how you can connect to the SQL server analysis services cube from Excel, and you can play with it. And most of the times it will be hidden whenever you click on outside this pivot. So don't get scared. Just click on the pivot. This will be available again. And if you want to convert row to the column or column to the row, let's say this one I want to pull it here. Just drag and drop it. You can see black color. This is the year-wise hierarchy. Now black color, I filtered it actually. Let me remove the filter part. Let me select everything. If you see now color-wise, this is year, semester, quarter, and month-based split up. And you can see this is not having any values, and that's why I have given NA as the hard-coded text, and that is why it is showing NA. I'll show you where I have given. If it is blank, I asked it to show NA. I'll make it as nothing available. Something I have given. Now you can see it is showing as nothing available. So this is how you can generate the reports pointing to SSAS cube database from Excel. And try the different options that are available, and if you have any queries, you can always ask. If you save the file now, the data will also be saved. And you can export the same file to the users. Let's say you can save this file, and when you attach this and send it to the user, they can see only the data. But if they go and click on refresh here in the data, then everything will go. Why? Because the connection is not available, right? So if you click on refresh, now it will refresh. Why? Because the connection is available and the data will be pulled from the database. But if you click on refresh, when from the different machine where the database is not available or the connectivity is not available, then it will go for it, or it will throw error. This is about Excel connection to SSAS cube database. Okay, let me close it and let's jump into the next concept. We discussed about translations. You know about browser, you know about perspectives now, and you know about partitions. And the remaining concepts are calculations, KPIs, actions, and aggregations. Okay. If you see the first three, among the remaining four, the aggregations and calculations are very, very important. The most frequently used one. I mean to say that you will be using it in every project, almost all in every project. Calculations is 99.99% you will be using it, and aggregations, it's again 99.99% you will be using it. But KPIs and actions are not of high priority, but anyhow we will discuss about it. Now let's start with the calculations. This is very interesting. I mean, if you are not able to create any calculation in the in the data source view, Let's say you have, you know, right, you have an option to create a calculated column, right? If you go to the data source view, there is an option called new calculated, new named calculation. Generally what you can do here, you can create some calculated column based on existing one or some hard-coded values. If you are not able to create anything, this is one way or one place where you can create, and the other place is here. Using this calculations tab, you can create complex calculations with ease. It's very easy to create complex calculations here. The calculation which takes a lot of efforts in SQL Server or in named query, or in data source view, it will be damn easy, or very, at least I can say, far easier than creating the same calculation in the SQL Server or in the data source view. Now, let me show you how to create the calculations. But for these calculations, you need MDX. If you are not good in MDX, then you cannot create calculations here. And let me relate these three now. The cube is nothing when you don't have calculations. When you don't know how to design calculations, then the knowledge on SSAS that you have is nothing. And for creating calculations, you need SSAS. You need MDX. Without MDX, without knowledge on MDX, if you say I can create calculations, then you are gonna work on basic calculations. You are not fit for creating complex calculations if you don't know MDX. That is why SSAS should come with all MDX always. If you don't know MDX, then even a kid can develop a cube apart from the calculations task. Apart from calculations, there is nothing in SSAS. Anyone can select the tables in the data source. You can create the dimensions, can create the fact tables. It's easy task. Nothing to do, right? So, if any one of you guys decided, I got this from many people, many of my students, sir, I want to learn only SSAS, not MDX. If any one of you, I'm giving heads up, if such person is there in this particular batch, then it's of no use for you joining this batch. I'm serious about it, seriously. So calculations plays a major role, and for calculations, MDX knowledge is very important. Now let me show you how to create one simple calculation. So for creating a calculation, you can see the calculator icon here. If you click on that, it will show you new calculator member option. Here you can give any name. I'm giving test calcs. So when I started giving test calcs, it is blinking here saying that the name provided is not valid. Why? Because I have given a space. When there is a space, it should be in square brackets. Now the error warning is gone. So this is the name what you are giving for this calculation. So let me give it as test. Okay. And what is the hierarchy where it has to be, to which it has belongs to? Most of the calculations, I can say 99% of the calculations belongs to measures hierarchy. So calculation means you are going to retrieve some metric value. You are calculating and bringing some output. So it belongs to measures. So leave it like that. And the expression, let's say I want to show 1000. Whatever may be the case, I don't bother. Just hard code the value and show 1000. And leave the remaining stuff as is. And let me deploy the cube now. I'm just deploying. I'm not what I'm saying is I'm not processing the cube. I'm just deploying. So I'm closing it. I'm not processing. Let me reconnect now. So if you see here, it's not available, the calculation. Let me see what's the problem. Why it is not available, guys? I created calculation and there is no syntax error. What could be the problem? Can anyone go for the guess? So this is enough. If there is any problem, then obviously it should throw error, right? No problem. The issue here is if you go to the perspectives, the calculated measure is added. You can see the test is added, but it is by default unchecked. So that is why it is not showing Why? Because here the perspective I selected is client 1. So let me go to the adventure works, and now you should be able to see the calculated measure, that is test. Now let me show you the sales amount. It will give you sales amount, you know that, and test. If I drag this test, it will show 1000. So whatever may be the case, I am hard coding the value to 1000. Let me take products. Let me take color. If I drag and drop color, it will split the sales amount. But if you see the test, it remains the same. Why? Because I hard coded the value to 1000. Right? I just hard coded the value. I just created a basic, very simple calculator measure which shows some hard coded value, that is 1000. Now let me go on modify it. This expression is the one where you are going to specify what this calculated measure has to show. What is the evaluation function or evaluation expression that has to be evaluated whenever you drag and drop this particular calculated measure. Now I'll show you one thing. I'll make it as 1000 into sales amount. Whatever may be the sales amount, I want to multiply it with 1000. So if the sales amount is $100, it should be $1,100, right? Let me deploy it again. So I just changed the expression, and if you see 1000 into, I dragged and dropped the sales amount. Here, from here I dragged and dropped the sales amount. Now it is processed. Let me go to the browser. Let me reconnect it, and you can see the sales amount, it is multiplying with 1000 and showing in the test. And the funniest part is, if I drag and drop this one, and this will be split again, right? Always it will take the sales amount value and it will multiply with 1000. Always it will do the same. Here it will, if I say I have minute one, I am dragging product key. Here also it will take the sales amount, it will multiply with the 1000. So I have given the function, I have given the expression as sales amount into 1000, so it will be always doing sales amount into 1000. This is how the expression part is very, very important. Now what I am going to do here is, I am giving 1000 divided by sales amount. Whatever may be the sales amount, it should divide the 1000 and display the value. Now let me deploy the cube again. It is deployed. Let me go to the browser and reconnect, and you can see it is giving, it is blank value. Blank divided by, that is 0 by some 1000. What it will give? It will lead to some error, right? Some infinity error. So this is infinity error. Whenever there is a blank, it is showing some error. But here if you see, this value divided by 1000, 1000 divided by this value, output is this, right? So this is how you can create calculations. Very simple way of writing calculations is, if you want to create a calculation, then this is the best way. And this expression plays a major role. Expression is everything here. The remaining stuff is nothing. So I've created a very basic calculation here. Now what I'm going to do here is, I'll do measures of sales amount plus measures of sales amount. That means it will be 2 times the measures of sales amount always. Let's say the sales amount is $100. It should show 100 plus 100, that is equal to $200. Let's see whether it shows or not. And you can see 209249.38, it is 418498.76. So it will be added twice. Sales amount plus sales amount will be shown underscore under test. So this is how you can create the calculated members. And these are the basic simple calculated members. And if you know MDX, you can play with this expression box. If you are good in MDX, then a person who is good in writing calculations is really the best in SSAS. If you don't know this, then you are not a great SSAS programmer. Okay. Now, why I am saying MDX is very important. If I see, this is the form view. The form view is clicked, checked. Okay. This is the script view. If I click on script view, you can see this is MDX queries. Whatever you are seeing from create to here, this is MDX. So if you know MDX, then you can write it better. If you don't know MDX, then you can't write it. You can write only calculations like dragging and dropping, adding this, adding two members, or divided by 100, the simple calculations. But for complex one, you should know MDX part. Now, let's see these properties. Here you have properties, right? Let's see each and every property now. Format string. What is meant by format string? If you see, they will provide many options here, right? What I am doing here is, I'm not showing anything. I'm just showing sales amount. Here, the format string, I'm setting it to standard. And let me deploy it. So the cube is deployed, and if I reconnect it, and if you see the same sales amount, it is not showing properly here. Here it is rounding to two decimals. So this column looks good compared to the original sales amount. So what I've done, I've taken a simple calculator measure where I want to show only the sales amount without any extra stuff added to that, and the formatting stuff is standard. And Ravi, you asked this question, I guess, Ravi or Pratik, how to format, how to remove the decimals. So this is one way of removing the decimals. And if you observe, the first standard is equal to this one. Okay? The currency is equal to this one. That means you will get dollar before the value. And the percentage is equal to this one. Either you can select this or select this. That means it will calculate the percentage. This is short date and this is also short date. You can select any one. And this is long date and this is long date. And the 0 is common one. If it is 0, that's 0. It will show without any decimals and without, if I select this, let's say I'm selecting the 0, and that means it won't show any decimals. Right? There is no decimal points given, and that is why all the decimals will be rounded to the nearest integer. If you see, it is rounding to the nearest integer. Okay, this is how you can make use of the format option. Why I have to create a separate calculator member to just format? This is not fair, right? So the other place where you can format the value is go to the measure. Go to the properties by clicking F4. Here you will find the same option, format string. Okay, you can select whatever you want. Let's say I'm selecting dollar, money. Now this is a measure change. This is a property change of a measure, and hence you have to process it. That's the difference. If it is calculated measure, you don't need to process. And if it is measure, then you need to process. Remember this point. For calculated measures and for perspectives and for translations, you don't need to process. You just need to deploy. Now, if I reconnect it, you can see the sales amount. It is showing in currency, and this is showing in the nearest integer without decimals. So this is how this is the option format string. Wherever you find format string, you can use these options. Either 0 or give standard or give this value or give this value or something like that. Okay, and this is the first option, format string, and the second option is very well known to you, visible. If you set it to false, what will happen? It won't show the particular calculated member. Okay, this is about format string and visible. Now let's see what is non-empty behavior. Okay, what is non-empty behavior? Now let me go back to this 1000 divided by null. Sorry, sales amount. What will happen? Let's see that. Reconnect, and you can see whenever it is null, then it is still calculating, but it is throwing error. Why? Because there is no value, some 0 divided by something, it is showing infinity error. So in calculations, if you select non-empty behavior, let's say for example you are selecting non-empty behavior for this sales amount. So generally this non-empty behavior is used when you are using it in denominators. When the denominator value, if you think that the denominator value may get a zero value, not zero, null. In that case, if you set it to non-empty behavior as sales amount, then it will check. This calculation will be executed in such a way that how this calculation will be executed is, first it will come here, it will take the sales amount, it will divide 1000 divided by sales amount and it will place the value here. Let me write it. So it will be executed row by row. It is not one time calculation, row by row. First for this row, it will take the sales amount and it will make 1000 divided by sales amount and it will place here. In the same way for the second row. Same way for the third row. And so on till the last row. So it is row by row calculation. If you observe, if it is row by row calculation, then if you set the non-empty behavior, so for every row, if it finds the value is null, the denominator value is null, it won't calculate. It will blindly place null. Okay, I set the non-empty behavior to sales amount. Now what will happen? Any guess? Whenever the denominator value is null, then it won't calculate. It will blindly place null. Okay, that is what it means. If you set any measure as non-empty behavior, then if that value is null, then it won't apply the calculation. It will blindly place the null value. Now what will happen here? Can you see? All the null values are gone. It is not actually gone. It is filtered and you can see it is placed null. This is null value and hence it stopped calculating. What it is doing instead of is, it is just placing null in that place. You understood the difference? Earlier we were getting error. Why? Because it was making 1000 divided by sales amount, which is null. 1000 divided by null, that is equal to 1000 divided by 0, that is equal to infinity error. Now I set that the sales amount, the denominator one, as non-empty behavior. Then it will go and check. If it is null, blindly it will place null. It won't calculate anything. Okay. So this is how it calculates. But why it is showing zeros? Any guess? This is fine. This is nulls. This is good. Why this is showing zeros? Some 1000 divided by 10,000 something value, right? It is showing 0. Why? Because I have set the format to some nearest integer. Nearest integer is 0. If I set it to decimal values, now you can see it will show the values. What I have done is I have set it to nearest integer, 0.000019. What is the nearest integer? It is 0. Right? The same thing was showing. And now if I reconnect, you can see it is showing 0.09 is the value. This is 0.09. This is 0.08. So like that it will be tested. So the non-empty behavior, what it will do is it will check that every row, if the whatever the value you have selected here is null, then instead of calculating this, it won't calculate at all. What it will do is it will simply place null. You are telling the server, if the value whatever I have given here, sales amount, let's say, if the sales amount is null, then don't calculate, man, just place null. So you are telling the server. So that is the option, non-empty behavior. Now let's see the associated measure group. Now if you see, this calculated measure is not showing in any measure group. It is showing as a separate one. Okay. Now, if I set this associated measure group to fact and net sales, what should happen? I'm telling the associated measure group is fact and net sales. That means the calculated measure whatever I have created, the associated measure group is fact and net sales, and you can see this is moved to fact and net sales. So the associated measure group is nothing but where you want to show that. That's it. Where you want to show this particular calculated measure. I want to show it in under fact and net sales. Then you just select it. It will be moved under fact internet sales. And if you see the next one, this is display folder. What do you want to create any display folder for this? For example, these all are calculations. So I've given the text as calculation. So what it will do is under fact internet sales folder, it will create one more folder with the name calculations, and in that calculations, it will place this test calculator measure. You can see the calculations is created, and in that you will find this. So what the advantage of this one is, it will group the calculated measures into one folder so that it will be easy for access. Instead of searching for, generally in real time there will be 100 of measures, at least 20 to 30 minimum. So it is very difficult to go and search for your calculated measures. So people, what they will do is they will group all the calculated measures into one folder. How to group this this plain measures into one folder? You have an option for that one too. Go to the cube structure, select the select the measure for which you want to set the display folder. Oops, I have to select the properties and select this, and you can see display folder. What I will say is, I'll say it as measures. This is measures, and the other one is calculations. Now let me process it once and see whether one more folder is created or not. So the process is successful, and now if I reconnect, you can see one more folder is created, measures. So what people will do is, they will maintain all the measures into one folder and all the calculated measures into one folder of one measure group. Like that, if they have 10 measure groups, they'll create same way, calculations into one folder and the measures into another folder. It will not be shown in Excel, I think. I mean, I've never tried that. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll refresh. I'll connect it, and it's not a big deal, right? I think it will be shown, and just try it. I mean, whether these folders are shown in Excel or not, just try it. So these are the different options that are available, and if you are good in MDX, then you can make use of the functions. You can see so many functions are available. You can use of these functions in the calculated measure expressions. Okay, and metadata functions. You can use all this stuff in the calculations. And there are a couple of other, that is color expression and font expression. These I never tried, but let me try it. Okay, background color, I'm setting it to red. Sorry, fore color, I'm setting it to red, and back color, I'm setting it to white, not white. I'll set it to some gray, silver. Okay, let me process it now. You can set the color, I think, and I've never tried that. Generally these kind of coloring people don't do that. Let me deploy it and see how this guy works, or whether this guy works or not. First let me see that. You can see the background color is set, and foreground color is, the text color is set to red. What we can do here is, you can write MDX query to set the color to red only when the value is very less. For example, if what I can write, test is less than 0.8, less than or equal to 0. This is MDX, comma, comma, so what I'm doing here is, I'm writing a simple MDX query for the fore color. I don't know whether this works or not. Let me see. I mean, I've never said this. It should work as per the MDX. It is correct. And let's see. So what I have said here is, it is not working. So something wrong in the MDX query. Is less than or equal to 0.8. Show this, else this. So here I'm checking some condition, and based on that condition I'm setting some red and green color. Okay, If the sales amount is less than 80,000, I have taken. This is the only guy which is having less than 80,000, and hence it is showing in red, and the remaining values it is showing in green. So in report generally you will try to generate this kind of what we call it as markings to the user, which will be easy to find out which one is in red. By seeing this red color, they can easily identify, okay, these color products are not performing well. And if I split this, okay, these three products are not performing well. If I split this again, if you see here, it will check whatever the value that is having less than 80,000. Then it will show in red color. All the values that are having less than 80,000 sales, it will be showing red color. Okay, this is how you can set the colors, and in the same way you can set the font expressions, what font you want to show. If the value is something smaller or bigger, you can show it in bold, italic, or something like that. You can see, you can set the font also. Okay, so very similar one like the expressions. So this is about the different properties that are available, and to make use of these functions you need to know MDX, and this templates is nothing. If you want to go for some what we can say most frequently used one, we can make use of these calculation templates. You say rank by position, it should come like this. It is giving you a template, a hint how to create rank by solution. Sorry, rank by position. If you want to create rank by value, this is how you can create. So it is giving you a template. What is meant by template? Template is a sample copy or reference copy. If you don't know, there will be a lot of, every company or every project team will maintain a different template for preparing low-level design documents and high-level design documents. That means it is giving you a reference document based on which you can design actual. So in the same way, this template can be used to create your actual calculation. But for all these things, you need to know MDX. Once the MDX is completed, then we will discuss at least half of the session. We can revisit these calculations for half of the session. So is it clear, guys, how to create calculations and what are the different properties available? Okay, we discussed about calculations and perspectives in this session, and I've given an assignment like how to create the month-wise partitions. The reason why I've given is in the fact internet sales, if you see this table, fact internet sales table, explore data, there is nothing, no column called month. Okay, there is no column called month in that. So there is no direct column, I mean to say. When there is no direct column, then I got it out how you are going to do that. Everyone should get that. And I thought this will be a very interesting task for you guys to do. If you try this, you will learn so many new things. So if you try this, then you will know that you can join couple of tables here in the query. Okay, but most of you guys didn't try that. That's fine. Now let me explain you how to create partitions for fact internet sales table. Okay, based on months. So as everyone knows, there is no direct date column or month column in this to filter out that. What you have to do is, when you select the query binding, it will give you the query up to this where. Fact internet sales, it will give you where after this. So what you have to do is, instead of going directly for that, you have to add an inner join. You can inner join with the dim time, right? With the dim time on some order date key. This is the date key I have given with the date key of the dim time, so that you will get all the columns from the fact internet sales as well as dim date table columns also. So where dim date dot calendar year is equal to 2001, our requirement, you know, right? If it is month wise, you have to filter something like where year is equal to 2001 and month is equal to something. But you don't have that month and year. That is why this problem. From where you can get that? You can get that from dim time. So this guy created the fact internet sales tables query select statement. He joined with the dim time on the condition that I have given order date key. I told you clearly order date wise I want to create partitions, right? On the order date key to dim time dot date key. Now he is using the columns from the dim time table to add the where condition. So in the same way, he has done for each and every month, like 2001 January to 2004 December. Is it clear now how to do the partitions when there is no direct date column? What I am trying to say here is you can join tables in the query, in the partition query. It is not like fact internet sales is the only one you have to use. You can join with other tables to get the data, to get the required columns for your where condition. So this is how you can create partitions on the fact internet sales table based on months by joining dim time table by taking the help of dim time table. Try it now and hope you will get succeeded. If you have any queries, you can ask me tomorrow. That's it for today's session, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's session. Thank you. Bye bye.